Doesn't everybody love a good redemption story? I know I do. Hey there, today I have a CGC unboxing, and yes, I am looking for a redemption story. I feel like with my last CGC unboxing, I feel like really all parties involved needed to be redeemed in some manner. I felt like I was really critical of myself and my skills. I was starting to question, whether these were books that I should have even sent off for cleaning and pressing. And then I also started to question CGC and maybe did I get a harsh grader, and just felt like I was almost being punished. The submission just didn't feel right. And I decided to just keep trying. It's kind of one of the things that I do. If you don't succeed, submit again. And that's kind of what I did here. I sent out another submission. This is 14 comics, and I sent them once again through Palm Beach Comic Presser. The same process as I've been using. I send him the books that I feel like all are candidates for improvement. Yes, hopefully a 9.8, but I'm really looking for a bump up from the grade that I've assessed the book, and I believe that these are books that do have pressable defects. And this was part of really kind of what my retrospective on the last submission was I just selecting the right books. So this one's a little bit different. I do have some older books, but not too old. These are all I would consider to be modern books. Some maybe you argue in the movie era, late 2000s, but for the most part, just consider them all modern, brand new books. And just to shift away a little bit from a lot of the newspaper era type of comics, just because I wanted to try a little bit of a different approach, send some different books in. This is absolutely an example of a kind of a quick turnaround in terms of unboxing comics, going through, grading, assessing them, figuring out what their fair market value is, looking at their potential value if I were to get the books graded, and then making a decision on them quickly and then acting on that decision. A lot of times I'll make the decision, I'll decide this is a PC book or this is a book that I'm going to get graded, but then I just put them in bins anyway. This is an order that I really acted on quickly, where I had made that decision, let my spreadsheets help me make that decision, and then went ahead and put this submission together. Just like a baseball player who maybe went 0 for 4, or in my case, 0 for 12, the best thing to do is to get back in that batter's box, get ready for the next pitch, and keep swinging. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get this opened up. As always, I do not look at the grades beforehand, so you will see the grades before I do. This is not a pre-screen. I don't know what the grades are. I do have grader's notes from Palm Beach Comic Presser, so I'll share the grader notes with you and reveal the grade to you first. So let's see if I can improve that batting average by opening up this 14-book CGC submission. Okay, this should be fun. Again, I don't know the grades. I'm excited to see the results. And let's get started with the first book on our road to redemption. This is Spider-Man number 7. You are not watching a rerun of an older video. This is the first appearance of Spider-Boy. This is the Humberto Ramos spoiler cover, which was actually spoiled for me when I went to pick this book up. I was well aware that there was going to be a new character on the cover, and decided to buy several copies of this book, and I've sent several to CGC and had really good results. Here we go, Spider-Man number 7, and it got a 9.8. All right, good start. The last submission I didn't have any 9.8, so we're already ahead of the game. But there were a lot of books like this that I just did not feel confident that on their own were going to get a 9.8. There was like something that just like a finger bend, slight issue with a corner, stacking crease, like I would say more of your typical type of pressable defects, nothing too extreme. So we're off to a good start, Palm Beach, with the 9.8 on Spider-Man number 7. Oh, I forgot his grader notes on that one. He just put 9.8 likely. There were no notes on it, so it's probably close to a 9.8 as is, and just needed a little bit of TLC to give it the bump. All right, next is Uncanny X-Men 509. This one was funny, not this specific copy, but I had a copy that was in my original collection, and when I was organizing my comics and looking at it, it looked to me like it was a 9.8, and I sent it in with a pre-screen and it got rejected. And then on further inspection, there was like color rub and the back was pretty rough, and I ended up grading it a 9.0. And then I found another copy after that because it was on my radar to kind of pay attention to that book if it popped, because I love this Psylocke cover here by Greg Land. And when I got that copy, it also looked like it had the potential to be a 9.8, but to me it did have just a slight defect where I had assessed it as a 9.6. Palm Beach's notes, like Spider-Man number 7, he did not put any specific notes other than 9.8 likely. So let's see how likely it is that Uncanny X-Men 509 from 2009, let's see if it did get a 9.8, and it did. Awesome. Very cool. Love this one. And then this, this is kind of multiple levels of redemption, kind of redeems my original issue from my personal collection. And starting to build back my confidence a little bit on the right books to send in. I'm sure most X-Men fans love Psylocke. She has so many great covers, and this was one that I had honestly forgot about until I pulled out the copy that I had in my original collection, and that's what put this book on my radar. So happy to have this in a 9.8. Love the colors on that one, just the purple, magenta, black, the pink. It all goes well. Just a great cover by Greg Land. Okay, next up we have Bloodstone number 4 from 2002. Love this Raiders of the Lost Ark homage cover. We have the original depiction of Elsa Bloodstone on the cover. I joke that she is kind of the darling of all comic book speculators. When I got back into the hobby, it seemed like every speculator on the internet in one way, shape, or form was just talking about Elsa Bloodstone, and she was just going to be the next big character, and she was going to have her own show or her own movie, and just on and on. You could not watch YouTube comic book content without somebody mentioning Elsa Bloodstone, and I just actually found it so fascinating. I didn't know who she was. I learned a lot about her, and then waited until she showed up in the Werewolf by Night one shot on Disney Plus, and then it seemed like all of the chatter kind of died down, and that's when I started to buy her books because I didn't have any. So there's a lot of just sort of entertainment value, I guess, in all of this for me, but I love Raiders of the Lost Ark, so of course, to get Bloodstone, the homage cover, issue 4 of her first series, with issue 1 being her first appearance. But all 4 issues of the series are great and still very collectible. Now, I had originally assessed this book as a 9.2. I got it from Mile High Comics. Palm Beach is telling me that it's possibly a 9.8, but he did notice on the bottom spine there's some slight wear with fibers. So it could be just some general wear, could be possibly some light bindery tearing. And let's see what CGC says. He does say that could get a 9.8 minus. I'm not sure which grade that is. I understand. What he's saying is it has the potential to be a 9.8, but realistically, well, here we go. Let's just look at the grade. 9.6. Okay, so that was kind of in line with what he was saying, possibly a 9.8. The tough part with this darker border, it's either a black or a dark brown, is that right there on the corner, it really does pop. It really does stick out. You can't miss it right there on the edge. And so that's what they dinged me on. But Palm Beach did a great job. Like I said, it was a 9.2, so he moved it up to a 9.6. But yeah, even on the back you can see, I think the corner just has a little too much wear on it to get the 9.8. But wanted to go ahead and get that book graded and hope to get the full series graded by CGC. Okay, enough about Bloodstone. Let's move on to Ultimate Spider-Man number 1. This was another copy that I had of the In-hyuk Lee homage cover to the original Ultimate Spider-Man #1. I picked up 3 copies of this book. One was already graded in a 9.8. I sent another one in that looked like a 9.8 into a pre-screen and hit that. And this one was the worst of the 2 raw copies that I got, and felt like it was close to a 9.8 and just needed a little bit of a press to bring it up in line with the other copy. Now, he did note that this is probably a 9.8, but the bottom spine has slight wear from the back. So, yeah, tough to see through the plastic and the slab. So let me go ahead and reveal the grade. Ultimate Spider-Man #1, this is the new series from 2024. It got a 9.8. All right, awesome. So I think if we are... the Bloodstone book, I think, is accurately graded. I think Palm Beach did a great job cleaning it up at the corner. If I were looking at that book now, I'd be disappointed because I would think it would be so close to a 9.8, but that corner is just too soft to fully get the grade. And this one, the back looks clean. It looks really nice. So I think he did a nice job on it. Looks just as good as my 2 other copies. And now this says the Sad Lemon Comics Edition, but I bought all 3 of my copies from Eastside Comics, and that ended up being a really nice pickup. And that was after all the hype started to blow up around Ultimate Spider-Man. I just went over to the website, and they had a number of ratio books plus this In-hyuk Lee exclusive that I thought was fantastic. Really happy that I found those books on Eastside Comics. All right, let's move on to another Ultimate Spider-Man #1. This is the Elizabeth Torque variant cover. This was open order. This might have been picked up from Eastside Comics as well in the same shipment. Either Eastside or Golden Apple is where I ended up finding my Ultimate Spider-Man #1s after release day. Now, this one I had graded as a 9.6. Palm Beach is saying that the bottom spine has a small bindery tear, and then he also said that it would be a 9.6 plus. Let's see what Ultimate Spider-Man #1, the Elizabeth Torque variant cover got, and it got a 9.8. Okay, I don't feel like I'm getting punished, obviously. I feel like, even with some of these books being borderline in terms of Palm Beach's assessment and best guess on the grade, I can totally see what he's talking about. The corner issue that I noticed, to me, it looked like bindery tearing where a piece of the page was being lifted off, and he just made note of that to say, hey, the book looks great except for that. So it, again, depends on CGC as far as whether or not they're going to be ultra harsh on it and mark the book down, or let it slide as a kind of just I don't want to say manufacturing defect, but it's almost just like a book structure natural defect where everything was just sort of tightly wound, and that's where some of the bindery tearing occurs. Overall, I think the strength of the book, spine absolutely perfect, all other edges, corners are sharp. So probably was a borderline book, so thank you to CGC for giving it the 9.8. And I talk about Ultimate FOMO. When Ultimate Spider-Man #1 came out, I remember just thinking I had pre-ordered a few books, but I really passed on it. I was just thinking I'd like the J. Scott Campbell cover, but I'm just going to pass. I don't really know anything about the new series other than Jonathan Hickman was writing it, and that should have been clue enough to pick up at least cover A, if not some of the other incentives, and I just passed. And just for a day or 2 online, scrambled to find as many Ultimate Spider-Man's #1 as I could, and of course they've cooled off a little bit now since release and since I've acquired some of these, but still fun to have them all graded by CGC. This one is also a super fun book. This is G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, #300. This is the last issue that was published by IDW, and this is a super fun issue because I'll show you the back cover once I reveal the grade, but it has every G.I. Joe character, G.I. Joe Cobra. It's pretty amazing that every single character was on here. I'm a G.I. Joe fan, primarily Marvel, and certainly now the Skybound Image Comics G.I. Joe. Not so much the IDW. Really, a lot of the IDW G.I. Joe was just in a different period of my life. and never really got into it. Kind of same for Transformers. It was really the original Marvel series, the spin-offs published by Marvel, and then now again loving the new Image Skybound series and all of those spin-offs. Would love to frame this book and have it to display, just because I just think it's so cool to have all of the characters each drawn on the comic. This has no greater notes from Palm Beach other than 9.8 likely. I had assessed it as a 9.6, and G.I. Joe number 300 from 2022 got a 9.8. Awesome. Here's the back cover. Just tremendous. Like, there's so many characters on this book. So cool. Written by Larry Hama, almost like the godfather of G.I. Joe. And I love it. I would love to have a display of my G.I. Joe comics, all of the keys, 9.8s, all the figures and toys that I kept. Just would be a really, really cool display. A pretty ultra nerdy display too, and that's part of why I hope to do it one day, and this book will be part of that display. Okay, next one we have Hulk number 4 from 2008. Now this is fun because this is the Jeff Loeb, Ed McGuinness Hulk run, where it primarily features a story involving Red Hulk. Obviously, this is the Green Hulk, but this is a part of a connecting cover. So this is the Green Hulk half of Hulk number 4, and there's a Red Hulk side, which of course now I have to track down now that I have this one graded, hopefully in a 9.8. As far as the grader notes for this one, I had graded this as a 9.6. Palm Beach is saying 9.6 plus, so he definitely saw something, and what he noted was the bottom spine tiny bindery tear split. So we'll have to see again if the bindery tearing is bindery tearing or if it is just wear and tear. But nonetheless, a pretty cool framed issue of Hulk number 4. But let's see which grade CGC assigned to it, and it is a 9.8. All right, this is feeling more typical of what my submissions are like or should be like. You know, it's not really just about me sending books into CGC and just kind of whining and complaining if I don't get a 9.8. I really do agonize over these books and look at the condition and do the very best I can as an amateur grader. And I know Palm Beach is also doing the very best he can, not just as a presser, but as kind of an assistant assessor of these books and giving me real notes and setting proper expectations. But of course, now I have to get the Red Hulk side, right, to have them on display. So really cool. Man, fantastic. Ed McGuinness, one of the best modern Hulk artists, right? That Dale Keown, obviously, very cool there to get the 9.8 on Hulk number 4. We are halfway through. Let's keep it going with Ultimate Spider-Man number 1. This is the 1 in 100 full art variant by David Marquez. I really liked the open order cover, and it was one of the issues that I pre-ordered was just the open order variant, the cover price variant. And then I don't always like this, but there are times where I like a cover enough that I want to seek out the whatever the ratio is where they've just stripped off the trade dress and made it that full art version. This 1 in 100 is actually my second copy. The first copy I got was from Midtown Comics, and I immediately saw that there was corner softening, and even I remember a spine tick, just a slight tick that I knew it was not going to have a chance at a 9.8, and I ended up paying a lot of money for it, and ended up selling it basically to get my money back. And then at that point, I took the money that I spent on that book, and since it wasn't a loss, it was a break even, I decided to find another copy and invest in that. And that's what this book is. Really thought it had a shot at a 9.8, but I did notice a little bit of creasing on it. And I graded it a 9.6, but I knew if I could send it to Palm Beach, he could work his magic and hopefully give it the bump that it needed up to a 9.8. So this is the David Marquez Virgin Edition of Ultimate Spider-Man number 1. This is the 1 in 100. And it got a 9.8. Awesome. Well, it's mixed feelings. I'm relieved that I have it graded and I have a 9.8. But I also feel like the way that the market for some of these incentives goes is unless you have an ultra rare incentive, that's really where there's just exponential value on it. When you have something like this that's fairly common and easy to find, yes, it's still expensive, but it's not going to have some massive multiplier on it. It's going to hold nice value. It'll probably sit around somewhere between ratio and double ratio, even in a 9.8. And I'm fine with that, again, because I love the new Ultimate Spider-Man story. I get the hype, I get the value, and so that's why I went ahead and invested in some of these incentives and store exclusives. But I'm not thinking that this is going to be like $1,000 book or something like that. I'm very realistic. It was really honestly more of a love for Marquez and his art, it being on the cover of a hot book, and then obviously the full art 1 in 100, and just basically being able to track down another copy where the price was under ratio. So thank you, Palm Beach, for working on this one and getting the 9.8 on that 1 in 100. So far, so good. Here we have Hawkeye #1. This is from 2012. This was another sort of talked about book and series by speculators, not to the extreme and level of Elsa Bloodstone, but certainly like Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, the Hawkeye show on Disney Plus, and the fact that the style, the font, the title cards of the show, like a lot of the design and aesthetics of the TV show was borrowed by the David Aja design of this Matt Fraction series from 2012. And kind of like Bloodstone, after the show came and went, Kate Bishop, even to some degree, I know she's getting some heat a little bit because Young Avengers is probably right around the corner. And so it was kind of before the recent hype around Kate Bishop, and certainly after the Hawkeye Disney Plus show, is when I decided to invest and pick up this book. And I got this from Mile High Comics and thought it was a really strong copy. I graded it as a 9.6 as is. Palm Beach noticed slight blunt of bottom spine corner, light spine ripples that he put in quotes. I think that's what he meant to say, that there's ripples on it. So I'll have to inspect this to take a look at Hawkeye's ripples just to see if they're still there. But he did say that the grade for him on this is a 9.8 minus, which again, he expects a 9.8, but CGC does their own thing. So let's see the grade that Hawkeye #1 from 2012 got. It cut a 9.8. Awesome. I love this. So I have other issues from this series graded as a 9.8. So this will look really nice next to those. Once we see Kate Bishop back on the big or small screen. But regardless, this is such a great series by Fraction and Aja. Hawkeye #1. Great job, Palm Beach, to get a 9.8 on that one as well. Okay, I'm definitely feeling redeemed, but I don't want to jinx myself, so I'll save my summary until we're actually through with this. And here we have Sandman 55. This is a book that every time I see it, I have to pick it up. Sandman Season 2 just announced, casting news announced. Love the show, love the original series. I don't know if Season 2 will dig this deep into the Sandman well of stories. I feel like we're still going to hit some of the early issues, single digits, early teens, those sorts of stories for Season 2. But I just fell in love with this cover as soon as I saw it. This is from 1993. This is the oldest book in this submission, still considered to be a modern. Palm Beach did not provide any grader notes on this. I assessed it as a 9.6. The previous copy I picked up and this one, I think both of them from Mile High, kind of the same kind of defect, just like a lot of page waves, and just the book felt very uneven. So I was hoping that a nice solid press would be able to flatten out those pages and get the bump all the way to a 9.8. But let's see, Sandman 55 got the 9.8. All right. I just love this. So many great Sandman covers, and I think everyone really focuses on those earlier issues. But Dave McKeon, once again, on cover art for Sandman with a Neil Gaiman story. All right, very cool. All right, a few more to go. Next up is Batman 609. This is from 2003. This is cover art by Jim Lee, story by Jeff Loeb. This is the first appearance of Hush. I was really not a comic book speculator or anything when I collected. I was one of those that I bought one issue of any book. I rarely bought multiples. I was just kind of a one issue guy. And certainly looking back at the keys in very particular books in my collection, why didn't I buy 10 of these? I just would always buy one. For some reason, I bought 3 of these. Was a huge Jim Lee fan. I knew that like him starting out drawing Batman for DC Comics, it was such a big deal for me, having experienced his art in Marvel Comics with X-Men and even Alpha Flight, Punisher, some Wolverine covers and other issues before that, and then obviously through Image Comics. And the fact that he was drawing Batman was I had almost the same feeling as when X-Men #1 came out or when Wildcats #1 came out. It kind of had the same feeling for me, and I ended up buying 3 copies. And I had assessed it as a 9.4. Palm Beach gave it a 9.8 likely with no grader notes. So he feels pretty confident in this book, and let's see if he's right. Batman 609 gets a 9.8. Wonderful. Great job. Great cover. Jim Lee, Scott Williams on cover art here. Batman, Catwoman, Poison Ivy, and noted on the label, first appearance of Tommy Elliott Hush, Poison Ivy, and Huntress appearance. So we'll see if Hush is that rumored villain for the second Matt Reeves Batman. Maybe this book will get another look, and some interest will be on the rise for that one. Next, we have Uncanny X-Men number 290. This is from 1992, so this is actually a year before the Sandman 55. So this is the oldest book in the submission. Now, I'm going to go ahead and jump to the grader notes here, because this was the book that Palm Beach gave the lowest grade to. He said that this is probably a 9.4. He did put 9.4 plus, but it sounds like to him this is not a 9.8 candidate. He put a number of notes here. I'll just go ahead and read them. Color breaking spine crease on the front center spine with a tick on the back. And he said that the spine is weak at this spot. He did improve it considerably, but he feels like a 9.4 is probably as good as he can get it. Now, I had originally assessed it as a 9.4. The reason I sent this in is it's a storm cover. It's not a key. It's not really a high value type of book, but it was just a book that I have a number of storm covers slabbed and just thought it would be a nice addition to that collection. So my hopes are kind of low. My expectations are low on this one just because I did read the grader notes and I do trust his assessment. So let's see if it did get a 9.4 or maybe it slipped up to a 9.6. Let's see. Oh. 9.0. Oh, Palm Beach, you were wrong. No, this was tough. Now I'm just kicking myself for sending it in at all. There's a lot of staple pushing on this one. Huge spine tick that breaks color right in the middle. Boy, this was tough. So this was definitely like a complete whiff on my part. Probably a book that I just shouldn't have sent in or just waited to get a better copy. There's multiple spine ticks on this one. But the staple push on this, especially on the bottom, is rough. It's actually cutting into the back of the page here. So we'll just put that over there. And let's move on to the next one. 2 more to go. Next is Predator, The Last Hunt #1. This is from 2024. Lucio Perillo on cover art. And I don't know, just like this cover, it was an incentive. Well, it still is an incentive. And I felt like it had a shot at being a 9.8. And when I plugged everything into my spreadsheet, I had assessed it as a 9.4. But because I had marked it as a press candidate, when I ran the numbers, it made sense to go ahead and have Palm Beach work on the book to see if he could get the grade bump. Now, I'm laughing because I'm looking at his grader notes. You have to understand, too, like, around the time where I was submitting these was when the initial controversy around the 9.9 pre-screen came out, and maybe some 9.9 slipping into some CGC unboxing results. So Palm Beach basically said a 9.9 likely. So So this is likely to be a 9.9, but he did leave that, by using the word likely, I think he's leaving just a little bit of wiggle room in case it gets dropped down to a 9.8. So let's see. Predator: The Last Hunt, retailer incentive copy from 2024, it gets a 9.8. So, boy, back-to-back issues, Palm Beach, where you're wrong. First, X-Men 290, and I didn't get the 9.9 on this one. So, no, I'm, of course, joking. Got a 9.8. I really, for whatever reason, thought that this had some pretty bad creasing on it, enough to move it down into a 9.4. But when Marvel started putting out these Predator books, I was waiting for them. They did some Predator covers, but I was waiting for a regular series to come out where it was just a standalone story with Predator. And there's been some Predator versus Wolverine and all this stuff. But this is just Predator: The Last Hunt. And the fact that they got Perillo to do the cover art on this, I just thought it was really just a gnarly Predator cover there where he's holding the skull. So just happy to have this. Probably would fit into my more horror or fall themed comics if I were to put these on display. So thank you, Palm Beach, for giving that one the grade bump. We'll have to get the 9.9 in that next submission, I guess. The last book in this submission, though, Daredevil 11. This is from 2016. This one I graded as a 9.2. The main character first appears in this issue. There's some rumors that he will be in the new Daredevil Disney Plus show. I believe that there was even some casting news about this character, so it's pretty near confirmed that he'll be in it. Just we don't know to what extent yet, but kind of a creepy backstory for this villain. And it was one of those where, again, just I don't believe that we're still in the age where we should all track down every book when there's like casting news and things like that. But I did really enjoy the Daredevil show on Netflix. I think it's one of the best Marvel shows, or even just Marvel live action experiences. I highly recommend it. I've actually watched it several times. I love it so much. And I'm just hoping that it kind of carries forward into Disney Plus. I know we can only hope at this point, but with X-Men 97 being so good, maybe there is hope that some of the future series will be great, and I hope that this character, this villain that first appears in this issue, is also great. Now, I had graded this book as a 9.2. Palm Beach is telling me that it's a 9.6 plus for him. He noticed a spine tick at the bottom where a dent was that I assume he got rid of, and a minor blunt at the bottom of a spine corner. So it sounds like he noticed what I noticed. He did some work. He improved the book, but maybe there was a little bit of history or some leftover spots that just couldn't be taken care of. I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to take a look, but I think he says he just kind of maxed it out as a 9.6, which is great, up from a 9.2. Let's see what CGC says. This is Daredevil number 11 from 2016. They got a 9.8. Awesome. It's the first appearance of Muse, written by Charles Soule, art by Ron Garney, who also did the cover art of this one, and it got a 9.8. Great work, Palm Beach Comic Book Presser. Really appreciate collaborating with you on this. I feel like we've redeemed ourselves. Let's put this one away, or let's just hide the grade. There. Now it looks like a 9.8. The X-Men 290, I'm gonna take the hit on that one. I should have done a much better job. I have other copies of that book, and they're probably in better shape than that one. So I'll try again to get that great Storm cover added to my collection. But really nice, 12 out of 14 got a 9.8 with the one 9.0 and a 9.6 in there. But I'll take 12 out of 14 all day long. So this was a big confidence boost for me. I really did feel like the last submission prior to this, just something didn't seem right. I definitely was starting to question my own skills, and I even got some negative feedback that said I only grade books by looking at the spine and I need to be better. And I don't believe that that's true. I do believe I fully assessed the book, front, back, pages, corners, using the light. If you watch some of my Let's Grade videos, you'll kind of see in what detail I look at these books, and I look at all of them in that detail, except for some reason the X-Men book, which I can't explain. But while my confidence was shaken, I still believed that if given another chance, I can identify books that are worth sending in for grading. And I certainly have confidence in the work that Palm Beach Comic Presser does. I think deep down, honestly, what was really questioning was CGC and trying to figure out if this was sort of a new standard or what. And some of the other comments that I received was that there is a particular grader there, or maybe a couple of graders that are super harsh. And although it's disappointing to hear because that means that grading is inconsistent over there, I didn't want that experience to negatively affect how I collect comic books or how I rate my own skills at grading, evaluating, and deciding what to do with my books. So thank you, Palm Beach Comic Book Presser, for all of your hard work on these books. I'm really, really happy with the results on these. Can't wait to send you my next submission. And thank you, CGC, for taking the time to grade these and send them back to me safely. No cracked slabs on these that I can see. All the slabs look really nice. So thank you for packing them well and getting my prized possessions back to me safely. Thanks for watching. Happy collecting, and see you next time.